Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 2021 Inspiring Teacher Awards. I think we have over 100 participants on this tonight, and we're so happy that you're all here to join us. I'd like to thank our sponsors for the evening, Emerson, the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics, and Pattonville School District. I'd also like to present a few special tributes. First, from St. Dominic High School, for Jennifer Martin. They said, "Congratulations, Jennifer. Thank you for developing our students into leaders of tomorrow." And next, from the Clayton School District, we have Chris Wande. "Congratulations, Chris, on being recognized for your role in inspiring young children to follow their dreams to be the scientists and engineers of tomorrow." You all probably are aware that we're here to recognize 7 teachers who are nominated by a current or former student who they inspired to pursue a STEM career. But none of us would be here tonight if it weren't for these 7 astronauts who we lost on this day 35 years ago, including Krista McAuliffe, who was supposed to be the first teacher in space. Their legacy lives on through Challenger Learning Centers like ours all throughout the world, where we engage students in simulated space missions and inspire them to be the next generation of explorers and innovators. Our center, which is located in Ferguson, Missouri, is supported by a partnership of 3 organizations: the Ferguson-Florissant School District, the St. Louis Science Center, and Education Plus of Greater St. Louis. So now, onto our keynote speaker. We are so happy to have Bob Behnken join us this evening. And as a special surprise for him and for all of you, we've asked another special guest to do Bob's introduction. So hopefully he hasn't peeked at all the names that are on the screen. So here to introduce Bob is a former astronaut, a longtime friend of Bob's, and the current chair of the National Challenger Center for Space Science Education. So known better to Bob as Bobby C, let me welcome Robert Kirby.
Well, good evening or good afternoon, depending on where you are. It is so great to be here. Thank you very, very much, Tasman, for inviting me. I really do appreciate it. And I could think of no greater honor than being able to introduce my friend, Bob Behnken, to you guys. As you know, Bob grew up not too far from the St. Louis Center and was a colonel in the Air Force and has went on several space missions, I think 3 now. Done several spacewalks, a lot more than me, 10 now, and he's just an absolutely wonderful man. I met him when he first came to the astronaut office in 2000, and I know him as a very personable, warm person, an awesome astronaut, great spacewalker, and an even better friend. So since you came here tonight to listen to Bobby B talk, I'll stop and introduce him as my friend, Bob Behnken. Thank you very much, Bob, for coming tonight, and enjoy the talk, everyone else.
Well, thank you, Beamer. I really appreciate that wonderful introduction, and I'm proud to call you a close friend of mine, and appreciate again the kind words. Today, I think the most important thing to maybe start my remarks with is just the opportunity to reflect on what we at NASA describe as our Day of Remembrance. And for y'all, that really focuses on Challenger because of your namesake for the Challenger Centers. But we also remember the Apollo 1 crew and the Columbia crew when we have our Day of Remembrance here at the Johnson Space Center and throughout the agency. As a person of my age, I really don't have a lot of memories of the Apollo program, and so I don't have personal history or experience with the Apollo 1 accident and what went on with those crews. I didn't know any of those folks personally, and I don't have a personal experience. But for the Challenger mission, I still remember being in a classroom. I remember the television being brought in because of the historic nature of the first teacher launching into space, and the rest of that crew kind of carrying that education message as a primary goal of NASA astronauts and our mission. I do remember being riveted to the television each evening as I followed along with the investigation that went into what had gone wrong with that mission and in some sense was motivated into a science and engineering career by seeing Richard Feynman, one of the top minds from Caltech, following along and seeing what he did with the O-ring material in a cup of ice water to really bring down to a wide audience what fundamentally the problem was. Flash forward several decades to my experience as an astronaut in our office here at the Johnson Space Center when Shuttle Columbia was headed home and her crew didn't make it to the Kennedy Space Center. The vehicle didn't make it, and the crew didn't survive, much as the Challenger crew didn't survive. And I spent months as a part of the investigative team collecting the pieces of our orbiter and trying to understand what went wrong so we could continue our mission. And so I think maybe the message in terms of reflection on today, our day of remembrance, and your namesake, Challenger, for the Challenger Centers, is to really realize that as the astronauts flew their missions and were a part of those missions, that they really felt that the risk for what they did was worth the reward. And fundamentally, the reward is what your mission is as well, which is to share our experiences with flying in space and to try to use those experiences to motivate the next generation of explorers and of scientists and of hopefully some astronauts as well as we continue to go forward. And so I would challenge all of you next year around this time to remember all of the crews and that they were serving that same mission that you all serve in terms of the Challenger Centers, trying to inspire the next generation and motivate them to study and be a part of our exploration adventures. Moving on to maybe something a little bit more positive, I think at this point, I'd like to focus a little bit on the Demo 2 mission that I was a part of last summer. The mission that I flew on was SpaceX's first commercial crew flight to the International Space Station, the first one with folks on board. And I would like to share with you what I felt was the most important part of my small contribution to that mission, which was really being a part of bringing human spaceflight back to the United States. As Captain Kirby described earlier, we met in the heyday of the shuttle program here at the Johnson Space Center, flying those missions. And it was a sad day for all of us when we eventually retired our space shuttles, and our astronaut office and NASA in general went through a period with no capability to get our crews into orbit. And I'll tell you, our mission of inspiring young people, and whether it's students or adults who are starting their careers to really focus on science or engineering, is a lot more difficult when you don't have the capability to launch humans into space from your own country. It's very different when folks can pack up for spring break and head down to the Kennedy Space Center and Cape Canaveral in terms of inspiring folks to be interested in our space program and what we accomplish on the International Space Station, if they can get a chance to see a human launch with their own eyes. It's just very different. I can tell just by how our experience went last summer. We did launch Soyuz crews last year, but none of them got the same amount of interest inside the United States as my crew did, Doug Hurley and myself, when we launched again from the Florida coast. And that was even with the challenge of not being able to travel to Florida in many cases to see the launch because of the COVID situation across the country and around the world. And so I really think that was something that was just critical to being able to continue to accomplish our mission of sharing our experiences and motivating people, was to add that capability, and have been proud to be just a small part of making it possible, that mission possible. I also want to reflect a little bit on my St. Louis roots. I think it's been referenced already that I grew up near the location of the Challenger Center. I grew up in St. Anne, a small community near the airport, kind of just adjacent to Lambert International Airport, and went through Pattonville School District for my entire education, from kindergarten all the way through high school. I had a wonderful experience through that school district, and then continued my education in the St. Louis area at Washington University as I studied engineering and physics in the local area. And I will say that, at least from my perspective, the St. Louis area just has a wonderful education opportunities for students, whether it's at the elementary or high school or college level. It's a really wonderful community that has all of those things kind of in such a small area. I think I was able to get all the way through college and probably didn't have to go much more than 15 miles from my house, which is pretty incredible when you think about it. Not very many people can say they have that much, or not very many areas can say they have that much opportunity, that much capability so close to home, which is a wonderful part of St. Louis. I would be remiss as far as my remarks tonight if I didn't describe a little bit the inspiration that I was able to take from teachers throughout my career. And I think that many of the teachers that are going to be recognized tonight share traits with the teachers that were most inspirational for me as I found my path to the astronaut office, found my path into the low Earth orbit and to the International Space Station. It starts for me with a grade school teacher. Mr. Weisenberg was his name, which is a pretty interesting name for, and if you knew him, his name was very fitting for him as an individual. But Mr. Weisenberg would challenge us as students to try to describe something that we thought would happen if we did some specific test. And so each of us as students in his class would have a little kind of experiment kit, and we would try to demonstrate different things, some of which would probably be a little bit dangerous if you were to try them at home. But under his supervision, he allowed us to try to explore the physical world, to do experiments and predict what was going to happen. And he did it in a way that made it interesting for all of us. He challenged us to do something and explain it as we tried to accomplish, or to predict something and then find a fun way to demonstrate it to a wider group of folks so that we could explain something that we learned or something that we wanted somebody else to understand about how the world moved around us. And that was interesting to me, and probably led eventually to me having such a strong interest in physics and engineering when I went off into school. But it was really his excitement that drove it home for me, and his excitement, I think, brought much of the class along as well. And so I know that Bobby Kerbeam, you're asked these same questions as well, I expect, and you're often asked how to motivate students. And I think that probably the most critical thing is figuring out a way to keep things interesting, kind of find ways that bring kids or students out of their shells a little bit. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, some physics or science or math experiment that you're going to find the one that captures their imagination. I'll tell you that when Doug Hurley and I selected the zero-G indicator, the small pink and blue apatosaurus, sequined apatosaurus that we brought on our mission that our young sons had selected, part of our motivation was that there might be someone out there who would catch a glimpse of that and maybe pay a little bit more attention to our mission for just a little bit longer, and maybe find some other aspect of our mission on the International Space Station, our launch into space, and maybe that sequined dinosaur would be the thing that was the spark that kept their interest just a little bit longer and allowed them to eventually, maybe there's one person out there who eventually pursues a career in science and engineering because they watched our podcast or our broadcast or our mission just a little bit longer than they would have otherwise. And so I would challenge all of us. I know there's wonderful awardees tonight who've managed to do exactly this, and to continue down that path. And each of us should strive to find creative ways to light that spark for the next generation of explorers and scientists and engineers.
Thank you so much, Bob. That was great. And you're right. You're absolutely right that so many of the teachers that you'll hear from their nominators about that spark and the passion and the excitement that you'll see coming through. So we've had questions that we've been taking from the participants. Some came in advance, and then we're having others that are rolling in as we talk throughout the broadcast. So we don't mean to start with a really intense question, but we thought we'd just go for the hard hitting ones. And we wanted to know, first off, what St. Louis food do you miss the most down there in Houston?
You know, I get asked that question a lot about the St. Louis foods that I missed. And it's interesting that for me, the St. Louis barbecue is always a little bit different than the Houston barbecue, a little bit sweeter and a little less smoky maybe than what we have down here in Houston. But I will say that I wouldn't put it in a category that I prefer one over the other. I like both kinds of barbecue.
You're barbecue neutral, huh? So, oh, great. And some of the questions that we had coming in that you've done a beautiful job answering in your remarks. We had one of our previous Inspiring Teacher Award winners from previous year. She and also both the Brenda Schnettler from the Pattonville grad from class of '93 had asked specifically about teachers, which you answered lovely during your remarks. And was there anything else, any anecdotes or stories that you'd like to share with everyone about a specific other teacher or event that helped you to lead you down the path that you're on, besides the story that you just told us?
Absolutely. I've answered, I think, a lot of times of that specific question, and I used Mr. Weisenberg as an example because he was a teacher that I was exposed to when I was very young as a grade school student. But I did also get exposed to a continuous sequence of those teachers, right? You don't get a single grade school teacher and then the next year they're gone. They don't get to go with you all the way on your journey through high school and college and graduate school. It needs to be an additional mentor, an additional teacher who continues to spark or create those opportunities for you. And so the next couple for me are really folks that I came across in high school, and they challenged me in different ways. It's a little bit interesting because one of those teachers, it's been a lot of years for him. He was also the teacher of my father, a chemistry teacher, Mr. Bond, who did 2 years of chemistry as a high school student at Pattonville, which is a lot for that subject matter. And he did it by creating kind of opportunities for you to explore. So there was the book chemistry, and then there at some point you get to the point where you need to do work to discover new things. And so he took it on his own accord to kind of find those opportunities for us. And so he would finagle his way to get equipment, a gas chromatograph, some pretty fancy stuff. And, the local area in St. Louis does offer the opportunity to have business partnerships or otherwise where you might be able to get some surplus hardware and let some high school students have some interaction with it. And he was just wonderful at finding some of that equipment, things you wouldn't normally be exposed to, and then challenging you to have the opportunity to work with it and try to understand what you could do with it and what its limitations were. And it's not the kind of education that you're going to find in a book or in a standardized curriculum, right? No one's going to say, go get a hold of Monsanto and get a hold of a piece of hardware from them and drag it into the classroom. And then you do it this way. He had to be creative about how he was going to add opportunity, add to the content of the standard stuff that he needed to ensure that, that we were picking up as well. And so I salute him for that. There was another teacher, Mr. Pugh, was a very interesting individual from a just physics perspective. He was a, no nonsense sort of a guy. The things happened in this world for a reason, and that reason was physics in Mr. Pugh's eyes. And that perspective was just a wonderful thing to be exposed to as a young student, as a high school student, as I continued on my career. And I could go on. There's just so many wonderful teachers that are a part of anybody who's had any modest success in this world. They don't do it without having that exposure from the educators.
Absolutely, absolutely, and you'll hear again tonight from these teachers, that whether or not they have them currently as a teacher or many years ago, that impact that they have on them has certainly stayed with these folks and helped them chart a path. So you flew on the space shuttle and the new Crew Dragon, and the teachers we mentioned before, Jackie Bloomer and Brenda Schnettler, both want to know more about how they compared and how did they feel different.
It's an interesting question. The space shuttle just had a ton of capability. It could do a lot of different missions. It could take a space habitat up to low Earth orbit and do work inside their different scientific activities. It could take a satellite up and then bring it back. It could build the International Space Station. It could just do so many things. It was a utility vehicle, a utility space vehicle. The Dragon is much more purpose-built. Its real purpose is to get you to the International Space Station and get you home safely so that laboratory can be fully utilized. And so the space shuttle, while is just like any other utility vehicle, it can do a lot of things, but how many of those things does it do perfectly without some challenges? It doesn't do all those things perfectly, but the SpaceX vehicle really slickly does the mission that it was intended to, which was to get you back and forth to the International Space Station. And of course, having 30 or 40 years on the space shuttle from a technology perspective, it's a lot slicker design, a lot nicer interface from a crew perspective in many ways. But you gotta give some props to the space shuttle because it can do a lot of things and had a lot of capability, and they did it on a little bit of a shoestring in terms of computers and equipment that was on board for all the wonderful things that it was able to do throughout its career.
Yeah, absolutely. When we think about the technology that is available right in our cell phones and what scientists and engineers were able to do in the early days, it really blows my mind. So we have another question here from Mike Parks from Clayton. He asks, you have had such a wonderful career and you've achieved so much. Is there anything you would have done differently or wished you would have taken the time to do?
I think for me, my son was born when I was a little bit older in life. And I would say that the one thing that if I could do it a little bit differently is that I've just have gotten so much joy from watching him and teaching him and spending time with him that that would have been something to start a little bit earlier in life. And so it's probably not necessarily the kind of answer that you were looking for, but just the wonder, to be able to see that through my son's eyes. I wasn't able to do that not having kids or until I got a little bit older. And I just, it's something that I could spend years, in some sense being his primary teacher. In some sense, he still has his regular education, but we still explore the world together. And that's something I wish that I had started sooner.
That's wonderful. And I understand that some space dads, is that a thing now? Is that a trending on Twitter or anything?
Yeah, for a little while, Doug Hurley and I were the space dads. I think they were looking for folks a way to kind of share our story a little bit, and whether it's the Apatosaurus that we brought on board for our boys, and being able to see them, folks being able to see our sons with us at the walkout for the launch is something that really wasn't a part of the space shuttle program, and so our two young sons were kind of front and center, and the fact that we were fathers was apparent from the walkout to the launch pad, and I'm glad that folks were able to see that and connect with us a little bit, because of that.
That's great. That's really great. So this past year, you got to experience the cutting edge of human space exploration. One of our award winners, Lisa Shipley from Baldwin, wants to know, what space travel innovation or planned exploration has you the most excited and why?
Well, for Lisa, I think that there's two things that have me excited. The first one that has me most excited is the fact that in addition to the booster being reusable for the Falcon 9 and launching the capsules again, the capsule itself, and I think this is the plan for the Starliner on the Boeing side as well for commercial crew, the spacecraft themselves are expected to be really reusable. And so going forward, to create the opportunity for more people to fly in space and share the experience or conduct more research with a wider audience, you really do need to drive the cost down in some sense, and reusability really does that. If you have to purpose build a new vehicle or refurbishment takes the better part of a year to accomplish it, the investment is so high, and we've crossed a trip to threshold where the opportunity for space flight should really open up as we go forward here. And I'm not sure how closely folks are watching this, but we are starting to see companies lay out private astronaut plans to head into orbit. And that's a very exciting thing to see happening, because it's going to create all those opportunities. And at the same time, while that's happening, I think the other piece that's super exciting is continued exploration further out. I know that when Bobby Kirby and I met in the astronaut office, if you consider what NASA was focused on at the time, it wasn't exploration beyond low Earth orbit. It wasn't much beyond the International Space Station from a human presence perspective. And so whether it's the Orion program or a lander to go back to the moon and continuing further out, it's just really exciting to see that program start to have momentum as well. And so those low Earth orbit flights with people outside of NASA is going to happen sooner, but to see that other leg continuing forward at the same time is just wonderful from my perspective.
So it's a lot of very exciting stuff to look forward to, and to know that the students that these teachers are working with, I mean, they can really say that they can be the next people to go up into space and be those private astronauts and go on further than anyone has really gone is truly inspirational, and provides it's something that's tangible for them to look forward to, or to aspire to. I think it would be a good idea if you probably look to Challenger Learning Center executive directors, especially the ones near St. Louis, if you need people up there for private space flights. So I would be glad to volunteer for that.
All right.
Okay, so I think that pretty much wraps up our questions for the evening. So we are going to thank once more Bob for those wonderful remarks and comments. And we're going to ask you to stick around so you can join us again after we do the awards for some closing remarks. And from here, I just want to say thank you again. We're going to now begin our actual award presentation part of the evening. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so with that, it's really remarkable to me that you are going to hear a lot of similar comments made from the students that nominated these 7 inspiring teachers as we listen to them. I'm going to ask the teachers and the person that nominated them, as you hear your name called, I'd like you to please unmute your mic, and you can turn on your video. So we're going to go ahead, and we are going to start with Anna McAtee, who is a graduate student at Regis University. And she's going to talk about why she nominated her former teacher from St. Joseph's Academy, Julie Haddock.
Mrs. Haddock was my amazing high school robotics mentor. As I first entered the world of STEM through robotics, I was so overwhelmed by everything going on and was very hesitant to jump in. But Mrs. Haddock really helped me realize my own knowledge and potential that was inside of me. She listened to my new ideas, and she answered my questions without judgment. And she really encouraged me to pursue my passions in science. I remember first joining robotics, and I felt really frustrated because I didn't think that I had that technical engineering mind like other people did. But after working with Mrs. Haddock and meeting with her and just talking about it and being honest, she helped me find a role on the team that made me realize that my talents were still needed. Although I couldn't write an amazing line of code, she helped me realize that I'm really good at organizing and writing. And I think most importantly, Mrs. Haddock reminded me that the team needed my support during hard times and my calm energy during competitions. Mrs. Haddock was just an amazing teacher that helped me realize that I don't have to think exactly like others, but rather I can bring my own talents and ideas and create a bigger whole for the team. So besides being just an amazing female role model in the science field, Mrs. Haddock really cared about us as a whole person. We would have conversations about the importance of staying bonded as a team, and we would have conversations about my dream of studying science in Colorado, and that's where I am today, so that's really awesome. I think that with all the support from the STEM teachers at St. Joe, and especially Mrs. Haddock, I feel proud and really empowered to be graduating with a double major in environmental science and biology. It's those roots in robotics that helped me move forward and realize, like, hey, I can go to grad school to continue and grow in knowledge and become my own female leader in the world of STEM. And so ultimately, I hope that after all of my schooling, I can become a female role model to encourage other women to pursue roles in STEM, just like Mrs. Haddock did.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. We'd like to award Mrs. Haddock with a 2021 Inspiring Teacher Award. So congratulations, Mrs. Haddock. I want to unmute your video and you can just say a few words to each other.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mrs. Haddock.
Oh, thank you. You are so sweet and you're doing such amazing things. You really are.
I appreciate it.
Oh, no, thank you. This is quite an honor. I'm just, wow, so surprised. So thank you so much.
All right. Thank you to both of you and congratulations.
Thanks.
So next we are going to hear from Tiffany Wysong, who's a graduate student at Missouri S&T. She's going to tell us why she nominated her former teacher from Captain Elementary School, Christina Huande.
I nominated Mrs. Huande. She was my 4th grade teacher. Before that, science and math were kind of frustrating, hard to understand, hard to learn. But having her as a teacher, she was so passionate about it. She knew what she was talking about. She could break it down really simply and make you understand it. We did some really fun things like making ice cream in class and doing science fair projects. I think I did a mealworm project and tried to clean pennies with tomato juice to get their oxide scale off. And now I've taken that experience and I've gone on to college for science, and now I'm working on a metallurgical engineering master's. And not only me, but 2 other friends, really good friends of mine and classmates that have had her as a teacher in the past, also went to S&T to study engineering and math. Not only was Mrs. Huande just an amazing teacher, but she's an all-around amazing person. Not only is she just passionate about science and math and animals, and she'd collect the zebras, we all know her to get class, puns, science sweaters, dancing. She wore tap shoes to class one time, and she still teaches tap till this day. Well, teaches dance lessons, at least to this day, and she's just positive all the time. I don't think that I've ever seen her be negative, and I've never heard anything negative about her ever in the last since 2004. So, right, so I think I would have found a path to science eventually, but having somebody super early on introduce how cool it could be to be a scientist and how cool it is to actually sit down and do hands-on work instead of reading papers and publishing it really, really helped that just mental image of what a scientist is and what a scientist does. And she really brought it to something tangible, and I took that reach. So.
Thank you so much. We'd like to now award Chris Huande with a 2021 Inspiring Teacher Award. So congratulations.
Thank you so much. And Tiffany, I really, I'm a crier. But thank you for everything that you're doing too in the field of science. And I know I have your picture up on my wall where my kids can currently see, my former students now as scientists and what scientists look like out there in the real world. So thank you for continuing to be an inspiration for me too.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm just so so thankful for everything you did, and I'm glad you moved up a grade from in 2003 so you could follow us along. It's just always meant so much.
Well, thank you and congratulations again. So next up, we're going to hear from Evelyn Monzik, a middle school student in the Parkway School District, and she's going to tell us why she nominated her former teacher, Jennifer Martin, who is now teaching at St. Dominic High School.
I nominated Miss Martin because she is the best STEM teacher I've had and will ever have. Within 30 seconds of meeting her, you would know just how great she is and why I love her so much. She is very energetic and always encourages gracious professionalism out of me and my class. She doesn't care what other people think. She only cares about how she can help us be better people. She was a cheerleader not only for me and my class, but for others too. I always look forward to LEGO robotics competitions, knowing that I'll be having the best day. At the competition, she would help other teams by lending parts or time. I always had so much fun in her class. It made such a big difference having her as my teacher. She is ready to teach always. If I am not, she shares her excitement. I can't really explain how she can change her mood just by being with her. She always motivates me and keeps me ready to do more, always encouraging me to strive for better. She taught me to be excited and use the information I learned to solve problems. Because of Miss Martin, I'm wanting to pursue a STEM career. She is a teacher I will never forget and has influenced me and many others of all ages.
Thank you so much. And we'd like to congratulate Jennifer on being one of our 2021 Inspiring Teachers. Jennifer and Evelyn, you want to unmute your mics?
Thank you, Miss Martin.
Thanks. How are you? I'm so excited about this. It's such an honor, and I am very passionate about STEM, and I'm so glad you took that with you and will take that with you forever. And this honor with Krista McCullough connected to it is that much more special for me because I followed her career as well as a history educator to a STEM educator. So Evelyn, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. Remember, you can do hard things. That's our motto in STEM.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. Okay, so next we'll hear from Maria Carbonell, who's a 5th grade student at Green Trails Elementary, who nominated her teacher, Lisa Shipley.
I nominated Miss Shipley because I think she's a great teacher and a great person. Miss Shipley is the teacher for the Mosaics program at my school, Green Trails Elementary. She always tries to challenge us with difficult math problems, strategy games, or science projects. I got into the Mosaics program when I was in 2nd grade, and I was an English learner, as that was my 2nd year living in the U.S. Since the beginning, Miss Shipley helped me and everything, and she developed a passion in me for science and math. Also, she pushes me to go further because she knows I can do it, and I feel confident when she asks me to do something that at the beginning seems super difficult. Miss Shipley is an amazing, kind, wonderful person and super funny. She has 2 dogs. One of them is a puppy, and they're both boxers. She loves Harry Potter, and she's a Ravenclaw. She even made her own wand that she uses in class. What I love the most about Miss Shipley as a teacher is when she asks us to solve a difficult problem, as she never lets us give up, and sometimes she gives us hints to make it a little easier, but not too much. For example, last year when I was in 4th grade, we needed to calculate how many sugar cubes we would need to build a pyramid, like the ones in Egypt. Everyone made their calculations, then we took the quantity of sugar cubes each of us calculated, and we built our own pyramid. This was a super fun project. Since I was little, I've always been interested in space. I knew I wanted to be in astrophysics because Ms. Shipley thought I would be interested in that area, and she helped me find a project related to space. One of my most difficult projects that I've ever worked on was last year's Genius Hour project. This is a project that we need to do at the end of the school year. We choose a topic, we need to think about 5 deep questions that we need to research, and then we need to present it in front of the class. Last year, I could not think of a project to research, and then last year, I could not think of. Miss Shipley knew I loved Katherine Johnson, one of my role models, and she told me I should do it about the why of something that she worked on. So I finally decided to do about why the calculation of the entry path of the spaceship is so important. I love to work on that. It was hard, but I learned a lot and somehow made me feel closer to Katherine Johnson, as she was in charge of doing those calculations for several NASA spacecrafts. Without Miss Shipley guiding and helping me, maybe I would have never chosen this topic. Miss Shipley does a lot of things for all her students. We know she cares about us, and that's why we all love her. She's also in charge of organizing an annual Creativity Congress in the St. Louis Science Center for all the gifted programs around the St. Louis area. We also go with her to a Math and Linguistics Congress. We practice a lot, and sometimes it's really hard, but these congresses are one of the funniest things of the year. Well, I think Miss Shipley is the best. This is my last year in my school. I'm in 5th grade, and I'm moving to another state. I am so happy she won this award because she deserves it, and I hope it's the way she remembers me when I'm gone. For me and a lot of students at Green Trails Elementary, Miss Shipley is the best, the funniest, a true inspiration, and as she says, she's Queen Shipley. Thanks, Miss Shipley. I love you, and I will always remember you.
Congratulations, and we'd like to award Queen Shipley with one of our 2021 Inspiring Teacher Awards.
Oh my gosh. So I'm a crier too. Maria, really from the bottom of my heart, thank you. That was so sweet and so kind. And it's such an honor to be recognized by such a bright, dedicated student when I'm just doing what I love every day. And I'm so proud of you. And I'm just really grateful. And I would say that the sky's the limit for you, but I know that you've got your eyes set way further than the sky. So you'll follow in the footsteps of your role models like Bessie Coleman and Mae Jemison and Catherine Stinson, and nothing's going to hold you back. Thank you.
And I love you.
Oh, I love you too, sweet girl.
Thank you so much. Those are such great words. So now we're going to hear from Brooke Stratman, who's a high school senior at McClure North and who nominated her current teacher, Brenda Schnettler.
I nominated Ms. Schnettler from McClure North. She's one of my favorite people that I've had as a teacher and as a leader in the school. She really takes a personal interest in her students. She made a point to know their interests. Like, she knows that I'm House Gryffindor of Hogwarts, and she makes a personal connection with her students. And she really thought that hands-on experience was really important to the learning experience, and it definitely helped me, whether it was connecting pipe cleaners to make DNA strands, just so you had a tangible representation of what we were talking about in class. She always took that extra step to make sure that we understood that this is how science works. And I thought it was really helpful to have a powerful, positive female representation in science as part of my education. I want to go into the field of biology, which is what she particularly taught me in honors biology. She just she captured my interest for real. I'd always wanted to do something in science, but it was her class that made me think, okay, I want to be a biologist. Like, this is what I want to pursue. So I think she affected me in the way that this is how I want to run my life and further my education.
So Brooke and Brenda, you can unmute your mics.
I'm already crying.
I just wanted to say thank you again for everything that you've done sorry, I'm getting upset. For everything that you've done for the students in McClure North, and for, like I said, being a positive female role model in the science community and making me so excited about science the way you are. That is the biggest impact you've left upon me. I'm excited to sit and do 2 to 3 hours of work every night because it's science. So thank you again.
I'm glad I didn't turn you off after jumping into Mr. Gregory's class almost daily and checking on you.
I'm so glad.
As I talk to your aunt about it, she knows that I love all my kids, but I love you a lot, and I'm going to miss you a lot next year. So make sure you come back and visit me, okay?
Oh, I will.
Good. Thank you so much for this.
You're welcome. You deserve it.
Oh, I forgot to hold up your award. Here's congratulations, Ms. Settler.
Thank you.
2021 Inspiring Teacher Award. Thank you so much. All right, so now we're going to hear from Kimon Jenkins. He is a high school senior at the STEAM Academy at McClure, South Berkeley, who nominated his teacher, Sarah Winstead.
All right, so let's see. That's my freshman year. That's when I met Miss Winstead. It was freshman physics. That class was a little difficult starting off, but that's really when I got into working harder. Miss Winstead really made me work harder in that class. So let me give you some instances. Physics, if you know anything about physics, it is difficult. And it forces you to try to think outside of the box and really analyze questions. In that class, Miss Winstead didn't teach like a regular teacher. She really helped us learn on our own. She taught us what we must do, how we should do it, and allowed us to, make our own way of doing things in the right direction. She really led me to become more of an independent person and broaden my way of thinking. Not everybody liked her way of teaching in that class because, most students wanted the teacher to, tell them exactly how to do it. How should I do this? How should I do that? Give me the answer. This Winstead wasn't one of those teachers that just give you the answer. She would guide you to the right path and allow you to find the answer on your own. And then fast forward, and I didn't have her sophomore year. But junior year is when I had her again, and I had her in AP Physics, an even more difficult physics class. And in that class, she really let us figure things out on our own while once again guiding us to the right direction. I'm gonna tell you, on that first test that I took, everybody failed the test. And she knew we were going to fail because AP Physics is difficult. But within that, she taught everyone in that class a lesson. I'm not sure if everyone caught on to it, but I did. And that lesson was that in order to get this stuff, you got to put a lot of time in it, a lot of work. And you can't think like a regular person. And this is why I chose to nominate Mrs. Winstead. She is just such a great teacher and such a good leader. And it allowed me to find myself and ultimately figure out what I wanted to do with my life. As far as physics, that's not something I can see myself being in the future. I don't want to be someone who does like aerospace engineering or something like that. Although I probably could, I don't see myself doing that. I want to be a computer engineer, and I've spoken to Ms. Winstead about this a million times. She really helped me figure out what inside of me is driving me to be who I want to be. One of the conversations I had was, about her future decisions when she was in my position. And she just basically guided me to follow my heart. So junior year is also when I joined robotics. And during that time, Ms. Winstead was our robotics coach. She wasn't like a president or whatever of the team. She allowed people to have their own roles and control the team on their own. She was just like a guidance person. Like I said, Ms. Winstead is really good at guiding you in the right direction to do the right things. And in that, learning robotics and all of the engineering that goes into it, the coding, that's when I found out that I wanted to be a computer engineer. I just fell in love with the whole working to accomplish a task and things of that sort. And the person person who brought me there is Mrs. Winston. So that's why I nominated her.
Well, congratulations, Ms. Winstead, for being awarded one of our 2021 Inspiring Teachers.
My goodness. Thank you so much. Oh my goodness. Kimon, I can't believe you're a senior. I still haven't, I can't even process it. I'm so proud of you because every time I've thrown a lot of challenges your way, haven't I? You've never shied away from it. You've always kept coming back and working hard. And that's the reason that I do this work, is because it makes a difference. And to see, students get to a place where they're able to grow and learn, it's just beautiful. Also, I'm really kind of excited and honored tonight because Miss Shipley was my 7th grade teacher, and she's also receiving the award tonight. So it's just really cool to see such amazing educators and to be part of this group. So thank you guys. I'm so excited.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Great. So I think we're down to our 7th awardee for the evening. So our last nominator is Holly Penny, who is a microbiologist at Vijon, and she nominated her former teacher from Cardinal Ritter College Prep, Venus D. Spain.
All right, I'm Holly, and I am a microbiologist for the company that makes hand sanitizer here in St. Louis, Missouri. And I nominated Mrs. Venus Spain Walker because she is the reason that I am in the field that I am in today. She also thought it was very important, which I do too, because we did go to the Cardinal Ritter College Prep. It's basically an all-Black Catholic high school here in St. Louis, and she wanted us to know and learn about different African Americans in the science field. So she was also my biology teacher my sophomore year, and that was when she thought it was such a great idea for her to bring in some fetal pigs for us to dissect. And of course, we partnered up, but I know with my partner, I was the one who's actually doing the dissecting, not just the note-taking. And again, there was a lot of note-taking. However, I didn't really understand why. It's probably from her needing to take those notes when she was in school, but I didn't understand why we had to go through the exercise of always taking the notes and going through things and just repeating things, making sure that we understood it for the test. And the information wasn't just for the test; it was just information that we needed for life. So by the time I got to for my start my college career, I found out this is what Ms. Jane was trying to tell us. Like, we had to take notes, and the repetition is what is going to really get us to understand and be able to pull that information back to for what we need. For our future career. She spent the time with everyone to make sure that we all understood it. So that gave us the opportunity, the A and B students, to work with the C and D students to kind of like come together, almost have like our own kind of like study section, which is something that you do often in college, but we did it in high school. And she just, I could see the joy in her eyes with us being successful. Every time that we understood something or we were able to like do better than what we did before, I just kind of like, she has like a little bounce in her step, and I just kind of see that energy. We kind of like helped give her that energy to keep going on. And I always tell her, I've always told her, and every time I see her, I always tell her, Miss Spain, I'm coming back to take your job. And so I'm like, oh, that could be me. I want to be that person. I want to be that like driving force behind the next scientist or the next microbiologist or the next chemist. I want to be that person like Miss Spain was to me. So I think we do that.
Well, congratulations to Venus D. Spain on being one of our inspiring teachers.
Okay. Well, I want to thank, can you hear me, Holly? I want to thank you, Holly, for your nomination. You are truly an inspiration to me, because when I see my students being successful, I know that you guys have kind of grasped on to the things that I was trying to teach you all. I'm looking forward to you coming back and teaching this next group of scientists and leading them. You are truly my inspiration. So thank you, and keep doing what you're doing. Thank you, thank you, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I apologize, didn't prepare everyone to make sure you had Kleenexes with you when you sat down tonight. So we appreciate all the inspiring words and the comments, and really recognizing teachers for the hard work and the inspiration that they are continuing to provide to their current and future and former students. So thank you to all of you. This time, I'd like to invite all of the award winners, all the teachers, to turn back on their screens. And if we can also ask Dr. Bob to turn on his screen, we are going to take this is our version of a group photo here tonight. So let me see if I can get this here, get this all set, make sure we have all of our, we need 7 people. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Have everyone? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. So I'm going to have you guys smile. Here we go. I thought, and here we go. Should we take one more? Right. So to keep your cameras on, and Bob, I was just wondering if you can help us out with some closing remarks or comments from the awards.
Absolutely. I think Tanisha, Tasman, the first thing that I'd like to say is congratulations to each of the teachers that was recognized tonight. As you can see by the testimonials, you do make a huge difference in the life of the group, but also on each of the individuals who have nominated you for this award this evening. And I want to thank you for what you do to inspire the next generation of scientists, engineers, explorers, all of the above. You truly do wonderful things, and it makes a huge difference. I also want to thank the folks that actually did the nominations. It can be challenging as from a student perspective to have the courage to pick out who that mentor is, and then really let them know what they've done for you, or how they've changed things for you, or how they've inspired you. For me, I was able to invite many of the students, or many of the teachers that I was able to track down from my grade school or high school days and invite them to a shuttle launch. But not everybody has that opportunity to recognize the teachers that have been a part of what they've become as they've gone forward. And so thank you for taking the time to nominate your teachers, your mentors, your inspirers. It really makes a difference to let those folks know how much they've done for you. So thank you all, and congratulations again this evening.
Thanks, Bob. And yes, thank you. The people who nominated their teachers, they put a lot of work into this too. And not only the application, but came in to film the videos, and just, it was a lot of work. And we know that it really just, again, echoed what you just said about the appreciation that they wanted to show back to those teachers. So thank you again so much. So we're gonna close this out tonight, and you can turn off your videos now, teachers, and we're going to just close this out with a couple more thoughts here for the evening. And this is always such a wonderful event, because it reminds us all of why we're doing what we're doing, not only the history of where we came from, but where we're going, and the hard work that everyone continues to put on to inspire that future generation of explorers and innovators. So if you were inspired tonight by something you heard, or you want to be part of helping to continue the future generation of innovators, you can help us by doing a number of ways. And one, you can, if you're not already on our newsletter, you can go to our website at challengerstl.org and sign up for that newsletter, so we can keep you up to date on information and news that's going on. You can make a financial donation to the Challenger Learning Center. You can also do that on our website. And third, if you like what you heard and you think someone else would enjoy this, please tell a teacher to bring her class or a friend or a neighbor. We do all sorts of programs for many different types of groups, and we would love to have you share with them what you've learned tonight and encourage them to participate in a program with that. So with that, I'd like to thank one more time our sponsors for the evening, Emerson, the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics, and the Pattonville School District. We certainly couldn't have done this event without your support. And I couldn't have done this event tonight if it weren't for the people behind the scenes, my incredible staff, and also our volunteer Melina, who has put together all the social media for us and the videos, and Kevin Hampton from the Ferguson Florissant School District, who helped us coordinate all the media behind it. So I really appreciate everything everyone's done to make this event possible. And I want to say congratulations again, and thank you all for joining us this evening. Take care and have a good evening.